Welcome to the Beauties Podcast, where we talk about everything you need to know about women's sports. From the grassroots to the pros, we got it all. Today on the show, we talk about the WNBA Free Agency, the Australian Open's first round, and the national team's roster announcements. Here are your hosts, Addie and Cowie.
We are live from the Beauties Sports Desk. Another week. So much to talk about. Cowie, how was your week?
My week was good, buddy. It's always nice when the weekend comes and I can not work and podcast with you.
Yeah, 100%.
Feels good.
I love the studio. I love that when we come here, it's like, I love it. All sports, all the time.
Yeah, how was your week?
It was good. Good. Lots of stuff going on, so it made it interesting.
Yeah.
Keeping up with all this is a lot of stuff going on.
My camera roll is just a bunch of screenshots.
Honestly.
Yeah, when I see stuff, I screenshot it so I don't forget it.
Yeah. It's fun. PHF was on TSN.
I know.
There's so much.
Super fun.
But what I love the Australian Open. And with it starting tomorrow, it's all I'm thinking about.
I know. The annoying part for me with the Australian Open is all I wanted to tell you was like the time of day.
Yeah.
Super hard to find. Not that it matters. I mean, you go on your TV and you'll figure it out, search it, and it's there. But I'm excited too. I'm excited to see. I'll be honest, I'm rooting for Ashley Barty.
Oh, I know.
I would love to see her win at home.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I think that would be, when you think about the level of talent that's at the Australian Open, and you are ranked, well, she was ranked number 1 in 2021.
Yep.
So it's like she is at the top of her game on home turf.
You bet.
Like, it's time to go. And we were talking a lot too about, like, where's Naomi? Where's Naomi? Like, we got to make sure she's there. And that was really cool to see that she's in it.
Yeah, she's got a match slated for the first round.
Absolutely. She's playing Camila Osorio, ranked 53rd overall from Colombia. So that's going to be a great match just to see her back in it. Because, you know, she took a little bit of a break there, and, you know, everybody's obviously rooting for her, wanting to get her back on the court. So seeing that the Australian Open starts, like, it's blowing my mind how fast this month is going.
We're already we're past the halfway point at this point now.
Yeah. And there's so much has happened already. Like, WNBA Free Agency was happening, huge signing in the NWSL. Like, we have the national women's hockey team roster being announced.
Yeah.
What a week. Like, it was crazy.
No shortage. Same as last week, right? It's like you feel like there would be a bit of a lull just because there's not a ton of live sports, or it hasn't been in the last 2 weeks. But
NCAA basketball has just been fire. And like, March Madness this year is going to be insane.
Super.
And we've got to, like, not for this episode, but for one coming up, we're going to be talking about betting when it comes to March Madness too. So we're going to be talking a lot about that as well. How to get some money in the game here. How to make sure you're putting some money behind your bracket.
I know.
So we're going to do that because there's been so much basketball happening. But another really cool thing within tennis, Fernandez, when she signed not only with Lulu, like, this kid's life, I can't even imagine what's happening with her right now because she just signed with Gatorade.
Yeah.
So she's going to be looking the best, hydrated.
Feeling the best. And, you know, we talked about that in relation to, we saw some stuff come out. It was really on social media around the top 10 highest paid female athletes in 2021. And that's the kind of stuff that it wouldn't shock me that we see a Leylah Fernandez next year on that list.
Oh, absolutely. And
doing a lot of the right things.
Building the brand.
Yeah.
And that's, like, I think you've got some stats there too, just on the difference of what women are making on and off the court, on and off the course for, you know, the LPGA players as well. But it seems there's a big push, and people are clearly resonating with personal brands. Like, they're high level athletes, they're performing at the top of their game, and they're making money for
they're making
them.
they're making peanuts for their abilities in sports.
Yeah.
In comparison to what they're making off the court. And that it goes back, we've talked about it for a few episodes, back to that NIL ruling in the NCAA.
Right.
Where they can actually get money for, who they are and their own personal brand. The top 10 list starts at number 10 with Candace Parker, and she makes $200K of her $5.7 million on the court.
Yeah.
And then if we go all the way to the top of the list, because we don't need to go through this whole thing, Naomi Osaka making $57.3 million last year, and only $2.3 million of that came from the court. 55 off.
When you're say you're a prospect tennis player.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, okay.
Yeah.
Where's the money?
Yeah, exactly.
You obviously need to be performing, because how you get those deals is by getting in the spotlight of those tournaments.
Yeah.
Like Naomi beating Serena Williams back in the day in that huge, when the whole crowd was booing her, and Serena had to be like, okay, everybody, I'm allowed to lose. This can't happen anymore, right? And even with what probably has happened with Emma Raducanu's life.
Yeah, I know.
And there is an element too here of, you see it a lot with every sport. It's almost like it's the reverse when you're an athlete. You get all your money when you're young.
Yeah.
And then it kind of peters out because you can't play your whole life, whereas the average person works their whole life to have money at the end of their life. So it's like the flip-flop, right? So you just hope that they're surrounded by really good people. And because those two women are, especially with Fernandez and Raducanu and what they were able to do in the U.S. Open last year, that was history.
It was history.
Right?
This list also shocked me too, as a Canadian person who, hockey is so dominant here. And the 7th highest female athlete is a badminton player from India. Name's PV Sindhu. She made $7.2 million last year. 200,000 of what shit came from her sport, 7 million off. But a name that here we've never heard of. She's medaled in each of the last 2 Olympic Games.
Wow.
Super cool. That's what I love about sports.
Oh, totally.
Is that we hear, feels like 3/4 of our year we talk about hockey in this country. And there are sports like badminton and we're going to see in the Olympics that people are making an absolute killing at.
Yeah.
$7.2 million for being one of the world's best badminton players.
Yeah.
Wild.
And my nephew actually sent me a tweet the other day of a disc golf player, because he's really big into that, who made $500K last year.
Yeah, and I always thought
$500K.
Disc golf was
disc golfing.
Yeah, because we've got parks in Winnipeg here that have disc golf.
Tons. There's apparently this huge league. So it just starts to raise the question of, you were just mentioning hockey, right? Basketball, soccer. When are these team sports? Because it's the same with golf. These women are able to build up their personal brand, where when you're in a team setting, you're in the team setting, right? You think about even in the NHL, if we just go back to that, the guys already come up, and this is the same thing kind of going off that Jerry D tweet, was Connor Bedard.
Yep.
He is creating his brand right now
100%.
because he's going into the NHL, and he's going to play at a high level, and he's going to have a brand worth paying for.
Yep.
Just like Connor McDavid, just like Jack Eichel, just like all these guys that have, incredible brands before they go into it. We're doing our girls such a disservice by not allowing them to showcase at a really high level to create that brand. I would say the only girls that are getting this right now are Sarah Fillier and Emma Maltese.
And that's great points. And it's also interesting to me when you compare the top 10 male list to the top 10 female list, in that, to your point, as a female athlete, it appears in today's world that the best way to make a really big paycheck is in an individual sport. And outside of Conor McGregor was number 1 on the list, but Messi, number 2, Ronaldo, number 3, Prescott, 4, LeBron James, 5. All of the rest are in team sports and on the men's side. We don't see Roger Federer comes in after those that I just named. Tennis player, Lewis Hamilton after him as an F1 driver. And then the last 2 on the list, Tom Brady and Kevin Durant, both team sports.
Yeah, like it's
really
just,
interesting difference between male and female there.
Absolutely. So it'll be interesting. I'm excited to see the Australian Open. I love it. It's such a great tournament. And to see Naomi compete again, I think is really cool. Seeing the success of Fernandez and Raducanu, I think that that's going to be really interesting to watch their careers unfold and how they handle all the stuff that we were just talking about, but continuing to play at a high level.
Yep.
Like Serena Williams has proven that you can be in the spotlight, play at a really high level, and then continue to pursue your life as an individual. And I just hope that they're surrounded by good people to do that. Because if you look, so Poulin, like Mary-Philippe Poulin off the national team, gave a little shout out to Leila Fernandez to be like, hey, welcome to the Gatorade team.
I love that.
And I think that cross sport is really going to be eye-opening for them to start talking with one another. Like, hey, what's going on your side? How much, where are you making your money? Right?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's going to start to really create a sense of, like, you get Fernandez, Poulin, and Beckers because they're all Gatorade sponsored athletes now. Like, sick.
And it's super fun to see that all of these major brands are recognizing the value of athletes.
Yeah.
Right? Because we talked about that in one of our previous episodes with the Fan Project. And it's been proven. There's data behind it. And now, it's so nice to see. And I think as we start to have these more recognizable athletes that are sponsored by these major brands that every household has awareness to, that brings that storytelling, brings that fan base, and then can help create that foundation of infrastructure and pay the women and men, pay the athletes more for their actual, athletic ability versus, really seeking financial payment from sponsorships and partnerships.
Yeah. And I would encourage every human to go look at the Fan Project. It was created and founded by Angela Ruggiero, who is a USA hockey legend.
She is that. Yep.
And somebody who just has that passion. She has proven that there's a fluid fan. People they look at and find women's sports differently.
Yep.
It's not your standard way of pursuing and watching sports. And we know that.
No,
that's
totally.
what we do every day. We have to find a unique way.
We were just streaming from here to the TV.
Yeah.
to watch a PHF game. Yeah, and they also have a podcast, Fluid Fan. So if you are not much of a reader or you don't want to do that kind of research, you can always tune into their podcast, which is a really informative place.
Yeah. And I think it's really important that we continuously talk about money surrounding women's sports because it's one of the things that we have to debunk is that there's no money in it. And there really is.
Yeah.
There really is. Like when you look at Becky Hammon.
Yeah.
Right? 5-year deal, Las Vegas, coming from the Spurs, signs a legendary, highest paid,
mystery deal.
mystery deal. We're trying, Becky, we're trying to find it, but we can't find it, head coach and GM. So, this 5-year contract, highest paid coach in WNBA history. She's making good money.
Clearly.
Right? And then even the transfer into, all the negotiations going on right now in the WNBA free agency frenzy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been fun Twitter is a fun place.
I know it's funny to me that you've really learned that in the last few weeks. I feel like I've spent hours on Twitter and mostly for my own, work.
Right.
But it is a fun place because there's a ton of information and it's so easily accessible.
Oh yeah.
That especially if you have, if you follow the right accounts that are of interest to you.
Yeah,
Ton of info on there.
there's tons, and just scrolling through all this stuff, and obviously, core players being announced, Jewel Lloyd, Jonquel Jones, um, like no brainer. Like
Yeah.
I'm surprised that is even a storyline. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because Connecticut would be crazy to lose the, MVP of last season.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's so many, like, if you get into the nuances of the sports, right? Like, the restricted free agents, unrestricted free agents, core players. Every team in the league is only allowed to core a player. And there are some like nuances that can happen in there. So if a player is cored by a team and then that player is traded and the team that is receiving that player from trade has a cored player, that second one doesn't count. The WNBA CBA, I've done some reading inside of there, and there's some rules that are going to be changing on how long you can core players. I think now in the 2022 season that moves to 2 years, and essentially I like what it does, and I think there's a lot of education that we could put forward towards understanding all of that negotiation process, because when you think about that level of business structure that exists in there, from a fan perspective, it's like, yeah, sign my favorite player.
Yeah.
And when when
Yes.
you have salary caps and restrictions and free agency periods, and even though free agency has already started, they can't actually sign contracts until February 1st. There's so many little fine details that make sport, to me as a really analytical person, make sports super, super fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And just mentioning too, Clea Copper from Chicago Sky is also mentioned as a core player, which obviously those three would be no-brainers. But when you're looking at a team like Seattle, Sue, re-signing Sue, and then obviously everybody would assume, okay, but you're going to sign Lloyd, but then leave Stewie out there. And it's like, okay, but Stewie is clearly just going to stay. Like, she's referenced Seattle as home.
Yeah.
But this is where I would love to see, like, battles of negotiations. Like, you can't tell me that a team like Atlanta wouldn't want Stewie.
Well,
what are you going to pay?
yeah.
What are you going to pay for Stewie?
Yeah,
right? This
hear
is
you.
where I love that. I love that whole dynamic behind the scenes of, like, let's kind of battle for these women now,
Well, and we talked about before we hit record today, just the fact that Phoenix doesn't have a head coach, and then you think about that in the perspective of free agency, and does not having a head coach as you go into free agency, like, what kind of impacts does that have, right? They've got, I think the stat that I read was 64% of the salary cap with Phoenix is tied up in Griner, Taurasi, Diggins Smith, and Hartley.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me at
So
all.
64% of your salary cap in 4 players.
Yeah. And then you still have people on your roster like Kia Nurse that you still need to pay, make sure, because
like
she's worth the money, right? She's worth to have it in the roster. But I don't know, when you think of like all these teams like the Mystics and the Wings, like the Mystics getting the first overall pick this year, like, okay, how does that change what they're thinking when it comes to who they're signing? In Connecticut also re-signs Natasha Hyman, which I think is a really smart play for them. She was just such a powerful guard. Reminds me in some ways of Courtney Vandersloot, but
favorite player.
She's just unbelievable. She's so good.
Tell us more. Tell us about it.
She signs a 1 year. I could go on for days about Courtney Vandersloot. It's not even funny. And then Allie Quigley is on the unrestricted. Like,
which that kind of comes as a package deal there.
You'd think.
You got to think.
But who knows?
Well, who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
The oh my gosh, why is her name? She just signed head coach in New York.
Yeah, no, I know we talked about that. Sandy Brandello.
Sandy Brandello and her husband, if the money's right.
We'll do the long distance marriage.
Yeah.
Fair.
See you in the off season. So Hyman signs for a 1 year deal for 72,000. I'm a big fan of that signing. I think it's a no-brainer. When you have people on your roster like Jonquel Jones playing with somebody like Hyman, you're setting yourself up for a really structured, disciplined veteran team. Like really, really positive when it comes to Megan Gustafson returns to Washington on a training camp contract. So going into her second season with the Mystics and her fourth year in the WNBA, she just has gone to a training camp contract.
Mhm.
And it's the same for, I read it for Shea Petty. Shea Petty just went for, they offered her a deal and she went for training camp.
No kidding.
So it's like people are thinking they want to be on championship teams.
Oh yeah, 100%. You look at some of the, interesting things where we've got some teams that have no one under contract. We've got teams like I think the Liberty has 12 players on contract. And so and back to what I was saying of this unrestricted and restricted free agency, like there's so much potential even when we've got where we think people are in lock because salary cap things play into it. Yeah, super cool.
And then Jonquel Jones signs a huge
blockbuster for the WNBA.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, signs a huge deal, rightfully deserved. If Allie Quigley didn't beat her out in the 3-pointer competition at the All-Star game, she may have won every award last year.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
you're not
if
wrong.
she doesn't win, if she wins that, it's like, okay, she won MVP.
Yep.
She was so dominant last year that man, I cannot wait. I'm happy. I'm happy she signed for big money. She deserves it. And because now when women in the league see it, okay, she's a natural talent. She's 6'6", like she's a beast.
Yep.
But it has that awareness of when you push, when you get those awards, when things like that happen.
Yeah, it matters.
Commissioner Cup money, it matters. It's a big deal. It's a big push in the right direction. So you start to see it and you start to see it happen a lot more. It encourages people to be a part of it. It encourages storylines. It encourages so many different things. So I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of women signing big money contracts.
Man, me too. And that's one thing the WNBA, they've got their CBA that is just now 2 years old, but it goes out to 2027. And I like that you can see the progression of the salary cap from now until 2027. And so having these big contracts like that, it's just back to that, like, take another step up the ladder, right? Where we're starting to inch closer to what we're accustomed to in male sports, where we see more money, athletes locked in for long-term contracts with big dollars. Like, I mean, I love it too.
Yeah. So as we move throughout the rest of the month, watching where women are signing, the contract date is the signing date where they can actually put pen to paper is February 1st. So we'll be watching for all of that as we head throughout the month, because there has also been, a big signing in the NWSL, San Diego Wave. I am so pumped for these two teams next year. Like, I'm excited for the NWSL as a whole because we always watch it and love it. But the San Diego Wave and Angel FC, like Angel City FC.
Yeah.
Man, like they're getting players from everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, okay, we're going to look and we're going to see what's happening in the NWSL or whatever. They signed Sophia Jacobson.
Yeah, I know. That's huge. And to add that to Alex Morgan, so you've got an elite level Swedish striker that's going to come and join Alex Morgan in San Diego. And the movement, I love the movement from Europe into the NWSL. I think that speaks volumes of what they're doing in the NWSL.
Yeah.
Also probably helps that it's San Diego and not like a, cold climate place.
Absolutely. And even like last year with Nadim going to Racing Louisville. And then if this isn't beauty status, I don't know what is. Not like pro player, like like I would say their franchise player. I'd go as far as saying that that's
Sure.
her status.
Mm-hmm.
Just becomes a doctor. Like, just as like, yeah, no, I'm going to become a doctor too at the same time.
Yeah.
Playing pro sports, being a doctor, it literally takes away all excuses for all of us in the entire world
Literally.
of anything.
Yeah, there's no such thing as I don't have time.
Yeah, exactly. And so she comes back, dominates, racing Louisville, huge pickup. They did
Mhm.
like this whole sick video for her, like, because it's a big deal for her
Yeah.
to come from Europe and then go to racing Louisville, who I would put racing Louisville jerseys in top 5.
You're
for
a
me.
big jersey person.
I'm a huge, I love it.
You amped up the Connecticut Whale jerseys.
Yeah. And then
I know you like Angel City jerseys. You thought they were super clean.
super fresh. And I'm also a big fan of the Washington Mystics Rise jerseys. They're fire. They're so nice. And racing Louisville, same thing. Like, they're so nice. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But I've had this conversation so many times with people. Like, people want to buy nice things. They want your logo to be nice. And I'm like, oh man, I would, that's what we're going to put. We're going to get
all your jerseys.
we're going to get like an all
I feel
jersey
like this
wall.
is going to end up being a wall of Courtney Vandersloot.
Yeah.
Just one of those, you know how kids have the decal?
Yeah.
Like the big basketball player, but it's just
big
her.
Courtney Vandersloot on the back.
I mean,
hey, I'm down.
Yeah, I know
down.
you are.
I'm down.
I'm
Get
well
her
aware.
up there.
I'm well aware.
Get her up there. So I'm excited for definitely the movement. There's so much opportunity for, like, we were talking about the prospect division.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you are an elite level soccer player in the world, you have so much opportunity.
Soccer's wild. It's wild to me. I do think that there's lessons that we can learn, but the accessibility of soccer is what has always made it so special too.
Right.
And it's been around for a long, long time, but they have so many pathways for people to pursue. And we're starting to see the movement between those pathways, which is awesome. Yeah, soccer, like when we were looking, it's like I'm talking you're scrolling pages of your computer to see all of the opportunities. Where if we talking about the PHF, like that's just not a thing.
Right. It's just not the same. And they're attached with big clubs like Barcelona.
Yeah. They're
attached to huge clubs.
Yep.
Arsenal, Chelsea.
Mhm.
They're big.
Yeah, names
They're
that have been recognized in soccer forever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if I were to ask you,
Yeah.
how many tickets you think Barcelona has sold to their next match or to the Women's Cup Championship League quarter final against Madrid? How many tickets do you think they would have sold in a 48-hour time span?
Oh man.
48-hour.
I mean, Europe. I'm picturing the jumping stands.
Oh, yeah.
Which
Where
is
you're
a
like,
lot.
oh, are they going to break?
Yeah. And I think about here, 15,000. I don't know, like 50,000.
70,000
70.
tickets to the club's Women's Championship League quarterfinal against Real Madrid.
No shit.
70,000.
Wow.
And people can say
70.
people don't care about sports. I'm not buying it.
Yeah, no, that's a hard one to argue with. 70,000, like, that makes me so nervous again of the stand. 70,000 people in the same place. I thought I was outrageous at 50. I'll be honest, I thought I was outrageous at 50. Yeah. I was like thinking about the MTA, or what is it, Canada Life Center, 15,000. Doing some quick math. I'm like, 50 is a stretch goal. 70?
Could you imagine?
That's amazing.
Walking out.
I want to go.
All I want to do is go to this game. 70,001. 70,002.
Yeah.
Addie and Cowie.
We'll share a seat.
Well, yeah, I'll sit on your lap. Yeah. Here we go. It's like, as an athlete, those are the moments you'll remember for the rest of your life.
I would, what a cool feeling.
Oh, you're walking out and they always do the cute thing where they're holding the kid's hand and then the ref comes and grabs the soccer ball and you walk out in two lines and you have 70,000 people screaming.
That's amazing.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Yeah, I'm not buying this anymore of people saying, "Oh, no one's going to spend money on women." I'm out.
No,
I'm out. 70. I'm with the 70,000 people that bought tickets to go watch this game.
And if it was in 48 hours, there's a lot more people that would like to go.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Great point. So it's what a
super cool.
Yeah, soccer is so awesome.
We should start I know we got a lot of we're going to have no wall space,
We're gonna
but
have,
we need a bucket list.
yeah,
That's on it.
The bucket list. That's what we got to figure out right by we got our jar and our trophy wall.
Yeah.
Then we got our jersey wall and our Vandersloot thing.
Maybe
maybe
she's dunking our bucket list.
Oh,
she can't dunk. She's short. I mean, for the WNBA, she's short. Compared to us, she's tall.
Us? She's towering us big time. Yeah. So it's that was really, really cool to see. And then even with that huge game, like 70,000 people, that'd be so fun.
I know.
We did get the announcement that the PHF All-Star game has been changed from Toronto to Buffalo, which we called last week.
Yeah.
We knew it. Like, we live in Canada. We know exactly what was going to happen there. So
yeah, I find it too bad. Like we talked about that last episode. There's a lot of Canadian nuances that they had in their planning of the All-Star game being in Toronto. The jerseys have a map of Toronto on them.
Mm-hmm.
They did a really good job, I thought, of just tweaking that logo a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? So they took out the CN Tower and put the
Buffalo
Tower or something it was called. In Buffalo. They are going to keep the jerseys as is, I read. So they still will be a map of Toronto and a little ode to their original plans. I also did see, what's her name? Tyler Tumenia?
Yeah.
Something like that.
The Commish Tyler.
Yeah.
The
Commissioner
Tyler.
of the PHF.
Commissioner Tyler.
Yeah. She did say that it'll be back in Toronto in 2023. So
yeah.
That's good. I appreciate that level of commitment because I think there was a lot of really excited people there and across Canada as well. So I'm glad that the players get to enjoy a All-Star game with fans.
Yeah.
I really am. And I'm glad fans get to enjoy an All-Star game because that wouldn't have happened if it had been held in Toronto. So.
Yeah. No, that's we knew it was kind of heading that way and we honestly thought it was going to be between Buffalo or Boston, right? Like we thought that it was going to be between those two and they went with Buffalo. So that was cool to you're right, to see that they didn't just go, oh, okay, we're going to delay. It's like, no, let's keep this on track. The women deserve this game. They've worked for it. They did the whole draft for it. Like it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's still the end of the month, so we still have a little bit towards it. So there was some PHF games this weekend. We had the Toronto Six, the Buffalo Buttes, and the Riveters and Connecticut going head to head, double header.
Yeah, we tuned into those yesterday. You and I were texting a little bit back and forth. Accessibility on those was nice. It was on Twitch, and actually, here in Canada, we watched the Saturday game on the 15th between Toronto and Buffalo on TSN, which was super, super, super nice. This afternoon's game, honestly, all games this weekend were an absolute blowout. There's no easier way to put it. They were just a blowout, all of them.
I was just going to say, when you look at the roster in which Toronto 6 is, man, it's hard to think that they're not going to win it this year. Like,
right
just
now,
being blatant out there, calling it what it is.
Yeah.
They've got the goaltending. They've got the razzle dazzle up
front.
Got
the firepower. They just they're super well-rounded team.
Yeah.
And even today in the game here this afternoon, they started slow. It was 3-2 for Buffalo after the first period. And then they scored with 24 seconds into the second period and then 2 minutes in the second period. And then it ended up being an 8-3 game.
Yeah.
It's almost like they just I don't know, we're teasing Buffalo. That sounds awful to say.
Yeah.
But
honestly, in the night before it was 6-1. 6-1.
Connecticut Connecticut beat the Riveters 5-1 as well. Like, there's just a lot of stompings that happened this weekend.
Yeah.
Also interesting to me, too, with the move to Buffalo, back to the All-Star game. So Buffalo originally had 4 players in the All-Star game. All of the fan-voted players were from Buffalo. That puts them at 8 players. There's more players from Buffalo than almost any other team. Maybe Boston has 8, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's good. They got local representation, but
Yeah, I think that there was definitely a local spin on that, if you will. That trying to get more Buffalo Buttes into the mix for sure, because looking at the Toronto Six, what they have to offer, like Toronto, Connecticut at the top of the standings right now, like they're those 2 teams are pretty dominant. You get really really high level players when you get to Boston too as well, like with the Callie Flanagans, who's going to be in it. I was a little bit surprised Kayla Friesen was off of it, 2nd round pick last year. I was surprised she was left off of it. So it seemed like a little bit of a local twist there, if you will.
It did. I just hit refresh on my browser this morning when I looked. MGM, Michaela Grant-Mentis, was leading the league in points with 17. She was not leading in goals, but she was leading in assists. She got a lot of points today. She's now leading across the board. She started out today leading in points with 17. She's now leading in points with 23.
Yep. Got on the score sheet.
Yeah, so
MGM got on the score sheet.
Yeah, there's a reason she's the MVP last year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I would say just from watching the games this weekend, when she's heading up the ice in the neutral zone, she's one of those players that just knows how to calm down the play.
Yeah.
So she's heading into the zone and she's a confidence player. When she has the puck and she's going into the offensive zone, you're like, oh, okay, we got it. We're going to have the puck or we're going to get a scoring opportunity. And Toronto has that.
Yeah.
Toronto has that. There's no question about it.
Yeah, the combo of her and Emma Woods I really like too.
Yeah.
Like I mean, that team is full of threats, quite honestly. It doesn't matter where you look.
Yeah, the real tilty for this group is going to be the next series. It's the 22nd where they go against each other. It's the battle for first, because both teams, Toronto's in first, Connecticut's in second, 11 games played, which is also super interesting because there is an element of, okay, Toronto 6, Connecticut Whale, 11 games apiece.
Yeah.
Top 2 teams.
Yeah.
Games played for Boston and Minnesota, 8. And Riveters and Butte, 7.
Yeah, I know.
So that's a spread.
Well, and it's like back to this whole panorama world.
Yeah, well, fair, yeah.
Like it's like, one weekend this is postponed and the next weekend that's postponed, and
yeah. Because you got to think that there definitely is, an advantage, right? Like they're in the top of the league, I think, from my perspective, because they're the best. Right now, what they showed this past weekend, they are dominant, and they have Elaine Chuli in net, Toronto.
Oh my God. She's a monster.
She's
She's super good.
Unbelievable. And so for her, she had little background on her. She played with the Toronto Furies and the Vancouver Rays in the CWHL. So she was playing pro prior to this. Number 1 goaltender at University of Connecticut, and gold medal with Team Canada in the U18 World Championships in 2012. She's played some hockey.
Yeah, and she's just and you know what? That was an interesting thing, or an interesting point too. So she played yesterday in that 6-1 win. And then she didn't get the start today in Toronto's game, and came in for the second period after I can't remember her name, something Hoffman, let in 3 goals in the first period. And I mean, you and I have known this for a long time, and there is some tendencies as players to, when you've got a goalie that is as good as Elaine Chuli, you have a different level of confidence, and you naturally play differently. And so I did like that. So they put Chuli in the second period, and that kind of calmed things down. But then they put Hoffman back in for the third,
right? Which
was good. And I haven't done enough research on her, quite honestly, but I like that they gave her the net back. Calm down. It's all good. go back to a veteran presence that was a calming piece, and then went back to Hoffman. So, but I mean, Elaine Shuley, it'll be fun to see her play her teammates in the All-Star game.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Because Woods, MGM's there, Darkangelo. It's gonna the All-Star game's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
Gonna
it will
be
be
fun.
interesting. You know what? One other thing that I was gonna just mention, which is an interesting piece on the watching the TV or watching the stream. Addie and I were laughing about it actually, which was there. So the announcer says on the stream, "Oh, judging by the fact that there's a Shaggy Wasn't Me song playing, we now know that Toronto has a penalty." So if anyone, I'm not going to sing the lyrics on our podcast, but if anyone doesn't know the lyrics and the inappropriate nature of the lyrics of Shaggy's Wasn't Me, that is the Toronto Six's penalty song. When they get a penalty, that's what plays.
It wasn't
me. Na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Wasn't me.
That is. I wonder if that was team voted in. We had to have one of them on the show and always
ask.
tell us right now, where did the Shaggy come from?
It's gotta be. Like, who else? I died. I was like, I can't be hearing that right. Hit the volume button. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm hearing that right. And then later on, the announcer says, yeah, well, judging by the Shaggy song.
You know where that idea came from? Rookie Party.
Oh,
Get a couple wobbly pops in you, and then
Probably.
Shaggy comes on, and they're like,
This is our
"This
penalty
is the
song.
penalty song."
Oh my gosh.
Because that is
Probably.
where all good things come from, is Rookie Party.
I was going to say beer or
Beer.
rookie parties.
Both.
Yeah.
Both, because one doesn't go without the other.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll definitely be interested to watch next weekend PHF, or the 22nd and the 23rd weekend series with the Toronto Six and the Connecticut Whale going head to head. Riveters and Boston head to head, and then Buffalo and Minneapolis or Minnesota Whitecaps going head to head. So it'll be good. It'll be good. I would like to see these games even out. I know that the world is too crazy.
Yeah, I know.
And it makes it so hard and unpredictable. You're
Yep.
right. So, but I would like to see the games start to even out. And I'm sure the players do too.
100%.
If I'm looking and a team's got, 3 to 5 more games than me, I'm like, what
What's
is
up?
going on?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So that would be.
It's also hard the way they schedule too, right? Because they're all weekend doubleheaders.
Right.
So yeah, it makes it, and with the skinny number of teams in the league, it's hard to catch up.
Yeah.
Would be.
Yeah, totally. So that'll be interesting. And then we also had some pretty big announcements when it comes to the Olympic.
Mm-hmm. We did.
women
Yeah, and then
hockey
some
rosters.
really unique ways. So the U.S. Women's National Team was announced. This is we could have talked about this on the last episode, quite honestly,
Mhm.
but was announced at the Minnesota Wild and St. Louis Blues Winter Classic game, which was so cool.
Unreal.
The stuff you saw on social media, Twitter, Instagram, of parents who had little girls there, and just like seeing their idols in real life at this pretty prestigious event was awesome. That roster is, of course, as always, super talented. It's got, we were doing some digging around there. Hillary Knight is the only player on that team who is going to her 4th Olympics. They've got a handful of players who are going to their 3rd. Kendall Coyne-Schofield, Brianna Decker, Lee Steckline, and Amanda Kessel all going to their 3rd Olympics. They've got 8 first-timers, the youngest being 19 years old.
Can you believe that?
Outrage.
No, not even just being young. And this is, for me, this makes a difference position-wise, but your youngest player,
Mhm.
O2, Caroline Harvey,
Mhm.
defense.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's,
it's huge.
it's just a different feel than a right winger. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
When you're a defense, Harvey, congratulations.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
is a big feat. That
Absolutely.
is a big feat. She's got a ton of veteran presence that is obviously going to be right there with her, like Lee Stecklin, Bozak. These women are playing at a really high level. Like,
Yeah, for
right?
sure. And then, when you look at the Canadian national team, also did a great job of their announcement. Very different than the U.S. Obviously, there's a lot of different rules in Canada than there are in the U.S., so ours was done virtually here. But they did a really good job. I really liked the social media spin they had with the little girls
Oh,
announcing. That was super cool. MPP, so Marie-Philippe Poulin and Rebecca Johnson join that kind of class of Hillary Knight going to their 4th Olympics. 13 players, I think it was 13 players, had been there to win silver in 2018. 6 players had been there to win gold in 2014. And then just the 2 had been there to win gold in 2010. So that means there's 10 first timers on the Canadian roster.
are we leaving out Joss? The
No.
Rock?
No, she's in there. But she's not going to her 4th.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's absolutely incredible.
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely incredible. I thought for sure. But it's almost hard because, like, I'm a little bit of a softie. When they did the little girls skating up, doing the stopping and going
I
like,
know. Wasn't it?
Emery and Smashmare.
Yeah.
I was bawling.
I know.
What a very creative,
Yeah, it was
unbelievable way
super
to do
cool.
it. So, like,
Super
when you think
cool.
about like who did it better, it's really hard for me. Like, and it's not obviously not a competition,
Yeah.
but for me, I think like it's you're on the 2 biggest teams in women's hockey.
Yep.
And for me, they both crushed it.
Yeah, they were
both
you
did.
almost can't even compare.
No.
They were so different,
Yeah.
but both so well done.
Yeah.
That I respect the way that both of them did. And I'm so excited to see, like, that's 8, so on those 2 rosters combined, 18 first-time Olympians.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That's huge.
Huge news.
That's showing the shift,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
That's showing the next little bit of what is coming up in women's hockey, because even when you think all these rookies are coming in, they're young, which means now they're going to fill PWHPA spots, PHF spots, right? Now the retention of women's hockey players has never been more important.
Yep.
Because women that did not make these rosters are at the peak of the peak at the peak. You don't make it to centralization if you're not an incredible athlete.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like the retention of not only those players who unfortunately didn't make the roster back into both the PWHPA and the PHF is really important, as well as these rookies getting right in there and growing the league and the amount of numbers. We're seeing a really big shift in women's hockey.
For sure. 100%.
So it's the way they announced it was just super good, really well done. When you're looking at Hockey Canada, one of the biggest storylines to come out of it for sure was Megan Mickelson not being selected for this year's team.
Yeah, and obviously she was coming off of a pretty significant injury. And so, I mean, props to her for all of the efforts that went into even getting to where she got to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, she put out an interesting post on social media, and I think that speaks volumes to her career and her leadership and just how much she's learned as a high-level athlete. That she took that, as much as I'm sure that was extremely hard to swallow, she took that as a personal victory, because I don't think anyone around her thought she would have even got to where she got coming off of injury. So, I mean, I do, again, I love that we're at a point in hockey where it's that competitive. For a long time, it felt like there was just mainstays.
Yeah.
And so as much as that hurt her, I'm sure, not to be there, I think both Canada and the US are poised for some really high level hockey. And we'll see what happens with her career now, whether she decides to keep going or
take a TSN stint. You know,
Oh,
they always end
hey.
up kicking around TSN. You
Yeah.
never know. But yeah, no, there was definitely, you know, everybody was looking because at the end of the day, this is the best of the best.
Mhm.
It is meant to be the
Yeah.
most competitive group going to represent, and we've talked about this a ton. It's you have to earn your keep every time you
Yeah.
go. You
Yeah.
have to, because there's going to be players that are, you know, putting in effort every single second of every single day to
Yeah.
make this roster. And
Well, and
she's
you've
had an
got
amazing career. She got hurt. She worked her ass off to get back into it. And
Yeah.
it just, at the end of the day, wasn't enough to compete with. And that's fine.
Well,
That's
and you think
fine,
of who
right?
she's competing with. Like, there's some extremely talented, the Ashton Bells, Erin Ambrose, Renata Fass, Claire or Ella Sheltons, Claire Thompson's. Like, that's outside of the Jocelyn the Rocks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, it's an incredible group of young talent.
Yeah.
And that's hard for anyone to compete with, never mind coming off of injury. So
Yeah. And so from centralization camp, players that were released were Megan Mickelson, Jessie Eldridge, Jamie Bourdonnais, Victoria Bach, Julia Gosling, and Kristen O'Neill. So to be honest, I am going to really be watching what these women are going to be doing, because I think it's important to show for them like what they do next.
Yeah.
What they do next. You not making the roster, heartbreaking.
Yep,
Heartbreaking.
for sure.
You are still an unbelievable hockey player.
100%.
We still want to watch you.
Yeah. If you need to remember how good you are, you can come hang out at an ODR with me.
Yeah. We'll play one-on-one and
yeah, you'll boost your confidence.
Yeah, right back up. The one thing too about Hockey Canada this year is their goaltending, because we always go back and forth for you know, goalies, especially when we look at it's essentially a battle between 6 goalies, right?
Yeah.
Nicole Hensley, Alex Calvini, and Maddie Rooney for USA,
Yeah.
right? Who Maddie Rooney just stole the show last year. Unbelievable. And then we have Kristen Campbell, Emrance Mashmeyer, and Renee Desbian. So it's like those 6 women are incredible goalies.
Yeah.
Like when you think, okay, like there's not one side of the coin that I look at where I'm like, okay, like, well, USA has got goaltending this year. Like it is so competitive in the net that it's crazy.
Yeah, and it gives you a lot of confidence if you're a player standing in front of them, because option A, option B, or option C are all phenomenal.
Yeah, they're all like
on both sides, Canada and the US.
Yeah. So that's going to be really interesting to see them compete for, you know, their games.
Yeah.
To see them compete for where they're playing and
and short tournaments like that, you know, it has the tendency for if someone you kind of lose the net.
Yeah.
If you're a goalie.
Yeah.
Right? If you have kind of a rough go and you're coming out of the net, it's hard in a lot of those short-term tournaments to get back in the net.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it, because you're right. You got to earn your keep, no question there. But like even when you're looking at USA's roster, Amanda Kessel, Kendall Coyne Schofield, Hillary Knight, Hannah Brandt, like Brianna Decker, Abby Rourke.
Yeah, like
What?
I know.
This is insane.
Yeah.
And the one underrated player who I loved during the rivalry series was Kayla Barnes.
Yeah.
The D.
Yeah.
I remember texting you about her. I was like, this woman does not make a mistake.
Yeah.
She was absolutely incredible.
And what about, was her name Abby Murphy?
Abby Murphy.
Remember, she was like a bull in a china cabinet.
Oh my gosh.
And that's like, I love watching that kind of hockey.
So, yeah, no,
she is like 110%.
Yeah.
Everywhere on the ice. Like, doesn't matter if that means slamming into the boards or not. Like, 110%. She was super fun to watch.
Full tilty.
Yeah.
So that brings me to a point that I was thinking about when I was going through the roster too, because obviously Sarah Fillier from Princeton University and Emma Maltese from Ohio State University are the only 2 players on Team Canada that are not a part. Oh, and Ashton Bell, of Duluth, are not a part of the PWHPA. So Duluth, Ohio, and Princeton all have Team Canada ranked national athletes, which is absolutely insane. And Troy Ryan in the press conference when the team was announced, it was Gina Kingsbury, Troy Ryan, Mary Philip Plan, and Sarah Fillier who did the press conference after.
Yep.
And he said that, losing those last 3 games of the rivalry series wasn't that big of a deal because they felt very confident in who they had already. And I found that a very interesting statement. And so
what did you think he was gonna say though?
Well,
valid.
Valid.
It's not like gonna be like, "Whoa, we came out of their shit in our pants."
Yeah.
No.
That's valid. That's valid. But because I genuinely believe that Emma Maltese earned her spot in that last game.
Yeah, you've mentioned that before. I know you do. Yeah.
I would say that an Ohio State athlete, of course, she's in the mix, no question. She was unstoppable that game.
Yeah.
She made herself known in that game.
Yeah.
So when you're looking between somebody who got released, like a Victoria Bach, over somebody that made it, like an Emma Maltese, I think she earned her spot in that last game. I genuinely believe that, just the way that she was playing, her compete, her forecheck, her back pressure was the best of the game. No question. She was everywhere. So that's why when he said that, I was like, okay. All right, Troy.
Seems a little sus.
Yeah, no kidding. So, but obviously, you're bang on. Like, what is he gonna say?
Yeah, well,
like,
I mean,
yeah, we were iffy on a few, so we had to, like, you can't say that. I get that, but Emma Maltese, she just caught my eye. I thought she was incredible in that last game.
I do love
earned her spot.
Yeah, your enthusiasm. Like, you find a player. Like, I admire your personal enthusiasm when you are onto it. It's like back to the Courtney Bannister. When you're onto it.
Yeah,
they are the cake.
Yeah, I was dialed in.
I know
I was dialed in.
I love that.
It was a no-brainer to me that she earned her spot in that game. So it's going to be super exciting to watch these 2 teams go head to head during the Olympics. We are also going to be keeping people up to date during the Olympics.
Yes, we are. We're working out our strategy to stay on top of things that are happening and to try and make sure that we bring more content throughout the course of the Olympics so that Beauties can become a place for people to check in and get a little snippet here and there of what's happened.
Yeah.
During, that day, especially being overseas and time frames and time zones affecting the accessibility of watching the Olympics.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's coming up quick. It's coming up fast. There's going to be so many sports that aren't. And we were actually chatting about this today. Just the mainstream, the sports that aren't on the mainstream.
Yeah.
Like, we want to showcase what is going on at the Olympics for everybody. So please keep an eye out for that. We will be releasing things as they come. We are in it. Beauty sports. We want to be a part of the whole thing. Cowie. That flew by.
It did. We're at 58 minutes.
That flew by. So if you don't already, please follow us on Instagram at Beauty Sports Talk, and Instagram and Twitter and Cowie's TikTok and YouTube at Beauty Sports, across the board for all of them. And if you want to follow us personally, at Cowie14. And I'm somewhere in the universe of social media. But yeah, it means a lot if you would go on, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review. We want to hear from you. We've got some voicemails we still have to get to, which is great, but we appreciate it.
We ran out of time today, but our voicemail is speakpipe.com/beautysports. It's super easy. You can open up your phone. It's essentially like leaving a voice message on your phone. So it uploads to us, comes to our Gmail, and then we can add you to the show.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Cowie, final words.
Same as always. Thanks for coming back. If this is your first episode, you've got some catching up to do because we are on episode 8. Appreciate everyone taking the time to listen, support, send us DMs and text messages. It's been a slice, so thanks for all the love.
Thank you, and we'll see you next week.